percentage of people of African descent in their population. Temperate zone, sparsely populated Argentina with a relatively small black population succeeded well. So much so that, again, Argentina is one of those places where they deny having black people. If you see black people there, they tell you they just came over from Brazil. The modern diasporic community in Argentina is indeed small and is practically unknown to most Argentinians. Tropical plantation society Brazil had a relative success. While the diasporic population there is perhaps equal in size to or greater than that of the United States, it is powerless, poverty-stricken, and unthreatening.
Dr. Arthur Lee says the islands between the South American continent and here have remained rich in African culture. He knows about that culture because it's a part of his family history. His story tentatively ties pieces of the voluntary African diaspora with the involuntary movement caused by slavery. To explain this circle of events, Lee tells us a story told to him by his mother.
Well, her grandmother was a slave child who was on a ship and I guess wasn't chained to the ship when it hit a rock off a currently famous island of the, what do they call them, the rich and the beautiful, Mustique in the Grenadines. And she swam ashore, and she was a Fulani child. She was only 8 or 10 years old when she hit the New World. And the Fulanis are herds people, and they drive cattle across rivers, I learned not too long ago. And they all learn to swim at a very early age. It's a survival thing, so that's how she happened to know to swim. And she, I guess, knew enough of that culture and was kind of, I guess, had enough of her own culture and character that she imparted it to my mother, her granddaughter. She married a person who was more of mixed European, African, and Carib Indian stock. Now, I believe the Carib Indians were mainly a mainland South American Indian tribe who pushed the Arawaks north through the Caribbean islands. And most of this migration occurred at a time that would have coincided with what the period that Dr. Van Sertimer points out was a time when West Africans were in that region. And there's also a story about the black Caribs and the yellow Caribs in St. Vincent. And I can't help but hypothesize that the black Caribs might have been Carib Indians who had intermarried with West Africans and were trying to find a way to get back home.
In South America, Dr. Lee says the diaspora has preserved portions of the African culture as it was when the slaves unwillingly made the Middle Passage.
The African population not only is large, but it has also retained a lot of its African cultural artifacts and traditions, and it's retained them in a state of almost a museum-like state, just the way the French come to Quebec in Canada to study the French language as it was spoken in the 17th century. Many African scholars will now go to Brazil to see the voodoo culture of Dahomey, Benin, the Yoruba culture as it was during the slave era.
The South American diaspora of Africans also had something else that didn't become a part of American history: successful slave revolts. From Brazil to Haiti, African slaves threw off the chains of oppression so successfully that Caribbean and South American black slaves were legally banned from importation to the United States.
In the next edition of African American Cultural Second Look, we'll talk about that. We'll explain how Africans did resist. They resisted slavery, they resisted economic exploitation, and they resisted those that tried to steal their native land. I'm Marty Chitwood.
Sane people will start from their center to try to explain the world. So there would not only be a Jewish diaspora, African diaspora, there'd be a European diaspora generally. That Europeans, if they're sane, will start from their center if they try to explain the world. If a person is a Frenchman, why would he try to go to China to try to understand the world from the Chinese perspective?
The Africa of popular literature is a myth.
Slavery, slaves were brought over from Africa. And this is really a continuation of the war between the Muslims and Christians.